Hello guys, Croft is here. Today I'll combine all the Alien and Predator movies to establish the complete and ultimate timeline of aliens, engineers, and predators. To make this timeline as detailed as possible, I'll also incorporate major events from comics and video games covering every key moment from 3 billion BC all the way to the year 4000. I know there are major plot holes if you're trying to connect Predator and Alien canon, such as David seemingly creating Xenomorphs and Weyland still being alive after AVP, so I'll briefly mention how these plot holes can be resolved. Approximately 3.2 billion years ago, an ancient extraterrestrial race known as the Engineers arrived on Earth and initiated the creation of life using a mysterious substance possibly linked to the blood of the first Deacon, according to the early draft script of Prometheus. Around 250,000 BC, according to the comic book Alien Vampirella, an alien egg was discovered on Mars, alongside the bodies of an ancient race that had been there for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. Interestingly, one of the deleted scenes from Prometheus involved the discovery of ancient engineer carvings on Mars, drawing a potential parallel between these narratives. In 12,000 BC, another non-canon comic book suggests that a Yautja ship crashed on Earth during the Ice Age, bringing xenomorph eggs with it. In 2996 BC, the Predators arrived on Earth and taught humans how to build pyramids, which then appeared across the globe. It is speculated that the Engineers might have created the Predators as part of their experiments with the black goo. Every century, the Predators return to Earth to use humans as hosts to spawn xenomorphs in these pyramids. These sites serve as hunting grounds where young blood predators are initiated into warrior status by battling xenomorphs. However, in 2896 BC, after failing to defeat the xenomorphs, the Predators activated a self-destruct mechanism, eradicating all traces of the xenomorphs on Earth. Another comic book features a flashback to 1300 BC with Yautja's visit in ancient Egypt. In the 34th year of the Common Era, the Engineers prepared to launch a ship filled with deadly pathogen intended to eradicate all life on Earth. However, the pathogen is accidentally released, killing the Engineers on LV-223. Only one engineer survived the catastrophe by placing himself in cryosleep, awaiting discovery centuries later. Extra materials from Prometheus suggest that the Engineers' decision to destroy humanity was influenced by the crucifixion of Jesus, who was seen as humanity's last hope for redemption from violence. In 700, Predator Xenogenesis mentions various Yautja hunts on Earth, including one in Japan, where a samurai was able to extend his life by eating a Yautja's heart. In 900, the legendary Viking warrior Rainulf the Wraithstalker faces a xenomorph in the Dark Lands somewhere in northern Europe. In 1325, Li Yat-sen, also known as Gideon's son Li, a thief and murderer, finds a crashed Yautja ship in the feudal Japan. He eats Yautja flesh to extend his life and steals their technology, and will return to this character in the 21st century. In 1718, pirate captain Raffaele Adolini fights his crew that turned against him, and the Yautja, referred to as the Golden Angel, helps him in the fight. At the end of the encounter, the captain gives the Yautja his flintlock pistol as a trophy with the engraving Raffaele Adolini 1715. In 1719, a feral Yautja arrives on Earth to find and hunt the most dangerous species on this planet. The feral predator eventually targets French fur traders and Comanche warriors. Then Naru, a young Comanche healer, witnesses the gruesome death of her brother at the hands of the Yautja. She then outsmarts the creature and manages to kill it, proving her warrior status. In the movie credits, we see 3 Yautja ships approaching, leading us to believe that in Prey 2, coming out in 2026, we'll see another Yautja Comanche hunt. The movie Prey also tells an alternative story of Raffaele Adolini's pistol, suggesting that Naru got it from a French interpreter in exchange for helping him. Between 1720 and 1950s, various alien and predator hunts take place on Earth, often involving historical events and figures and featuring crossovers with other franchises. In 1953, as depicted in the comic book Alien Earth Angel, a ship with an unknown extraterrestrial pilot crashes on Earth, and a strange xenomorph hybrid emerges from this extraterrestrial. However, Dr. Daniel Ripley, Ellen Ripley's grandfather, kills the xenomorph, preventing an outbreak on Earth. In 1987, a Yautja lands in the jungles of Central America and hunts an elite mercenary team led by Alan Dutch Schaefer. All of the Dutch's team is killed one by the Yautja before the Predator is outsmarted and killed by Dutch. From other Predator movies, we know that the Yautja came to Earth not just for hunting, but to collect DNA of the best human soldiers. On October 1st, 1990, in Mumbai, India, Peter Weyland is born into a distinguished family. His father is Bishop Weyland, a self-taught engineer and the chairman of Weyland Industries, while his mother is an Oxford professor of mythology. A commonly discussed plot hole in Alien and Predator continuity is that in AVP, CEO of Weyland Industries, Charles Bishop Weyland, dies, yet in Prometheus, Peter Weyland is shown as the head of Weyland Corporation. This discrepancy can be resolved by considering that Charles Bishop Weyland could be the father of Peter Weyland. This explanation can link the characters and their respective roles in the overarching Alien and Predator universe. Then, between 1990 and 1986, many other Predator hunts take place on Earth and they become more and more frequent. In 1996, somewhere in space, a strange extraterrestrial creature squeezes facehuggers out of ovomorphs and eats them like oysters in a bizarre comic book Alien's Taste. In the same year, 1996, a comic book Predator Dark River follows Alan Dutch Schaefer's brother, Detective Schaefer. In the story, Detective Schaefer embarks on a mission to the jungles of Central America. Driven by the need to uncover the truth behind Dutch's mysterious disappearance and presumed death following the events of the 1987 Predator film. In the jungles, he encounters predators and unravels the secrets of their hunting practices, ultimately seeking vengeance and closure regarding his brother's fate. In 1997, a Yautja lands in Los Angeles and is confronted by Lieutenant Harrigan and the special military unit led by Agent Peter Keyes. The unit has detailed information about the Yautja and the records of the 1987 incident. Lieutenant Harrigan defeats the Predator using their own weapon and encounters a group of Yautja. They give him back Raffaello Dolini's pistol as a trophy, which aligns with the comic book's origin story of the pistol. However, in the alternate movie version, the last time we see this pistol is in Naru's hands, suggesting that it will eventually be taken by the Yautjas. Then, in the 21st century, things get really bizarre as all of the three connected franchises paint a grim picture of the dystopian future. In early 2004, days after his 14th birthday, Peter Weyland is granted a patent for a synthetic trachea constructed entirely of synthetically engineered stem cells. On October 3, 2004, a Predator ship approaches Antarctica and activates the pyramid for the hunt. On October 10, 2004, a Weyland Industries team led by Bishop Weyland explores an ancient pyramid underneath the ice sheets of Antarctica. They are soon caught in a fierce battle between the Yautja and the Xenomorphs. During the conflict, a Predator named Scar kills Bishop Weyland, but later teams up with Alexa Woods to destroy the temple and kill the Xenomorph Queen, which ends up being frozen in the ocean. However, Scar is mortally wounded and eventually dies. To honor his achievement against the Xenomorphs and the Queen, the Yautja elders retrieve his body and take it aboard their ship. On October 11, 2004, once the ship reaches Earth's orbit, a hybrid creature known as the Predalien bursts from Scar's dead body, revealing that he had been impregnated earlier in the pyramid. On October 14, 2004, the ship carrying the Predalien crashes in Gunnison, Colorado. Several facehuggers and the Predalien escape, triggering a xenomorph outbreak in the town. In response, a Yautja named Wolf arrives to hunt the Xenomorphs and the Predalien. However, the United States government intervenes by dropping a nuke on the city to contain the threat. In the aftermath, a recovered Yautja shoulder cannon is delivered to a woman identified as Miss Yutani. In 2007, the first Blade Runner unit is formed, with Detective Cal Moreau as the first Blade Runner, a term used to describe special agents in the police department employed to hunt down replicants. In the comic book Blade Runner Origins, Moreau uncovers a conspiracy involving the Tyrell Corporation creating the first replicant, a genetically engineered human crafted from biomaterials. It may come as a surprise for some people, but the Blade Runner franchise is officially in the Alien canon, and there are many references between two series. In 2012, after the death of Charles Bishop Weyland, his son Peter Weyland inherits his shares of the company, and at the age of 22, Peter founds Weyland Industries. In 2015, after achieving success with solar panels, Weyland Industries secures investment from 3 venture capital firms. While Weyland Corp has not yet reached the pinnacle, it is steadily gaining influence, prestige, and power in the corporate world. In 2018, it is revealed that predators collect DNA from species across different planets to enhance their own genetic makeup. A rogue predator crash lands on Earth, bringing advanced Yautja technology to help humans defend themselves against a looming threat. However, a giant ultimate predator follows the rogue and kills him for betraying their race. The Yautja have been hunting on Earth for nearly 5,000 years, but in the last century these hunts have become more and more frequent, signaling a possible full-scale invasion. Which is the reason the rogue predator delivers the predator-killer suit to humans, an act that made him a traitor. In 2019, in the advanced urban area of Los Angeles, Rick Decker, the former police officer and Blade Runner, is tasked with hunting down and retiring, aka killing, rogue replicants, bioengineered beings designed to serve humans but who rebelled, seeking to extend their limited lifespans. Roy Batty, a replicant, confronts his creator Eldon Tyrell, who's the founder and corporate head of the Tyrell Corporation. Roy demands an extension of his lifespan, but Tyrell reveals that this extension is impossible, prompting Roy to kill him. Roy then dies due to expiration, and Deckard, who developed affection for Rachel, an advanced replicant, goes into hiding with her. In 2022, social tensions and animosity towards replicants grows after the murder of Eldon Tyrell, leading to public arrests and violence against replicants. In response, a group of replicants detonates an AMP device, causing a massive blackout in Los Angeles. This event leads to severe disruptions in infrastructure and the economy, exacerbating the already volatile society, but giving replicants a chance to escape and hide. Consequently, the production of new replicants is officially banned, and existing replicants are continuously hunted down and retired by Blade Runners. In 2023, Peter Weyland is awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his cancer cure. In his legendary TED Talk, Sir Peter Weyland outlines his vision for Weyland Corporation, laying the groundwork for the next 50 years of building better worlds. Peter also mentions Eldon Tyrell, viewing him as a competitor who ran his corporation like a god on top of a pyramid overlooking a city of angels. Considering that Tyrell was killed by a replicant, the rise of synthetic beings like David who are fully artificial is explained by their perceived safety compared to replicants who can go rogue. In 2024, 8 mercenaries and criminals are abducted from Earth and dropped on an unknown planet, including mercenary Royce and sniper Isabel. They find themselves on an alien game preserve planet and soon realize they're being hunted by 3 predators. Royce and Isabel are the only survivors, and after joining forces with a classic Yautja, they manage to defeat the berserker predator. However, as more parachutes descend in the sky, they realize their ordeal is not over and they resolve to find a way off the planet. On January 7, 2025, Weyland manufactures the first android prototype model of its kind, David 1. Peter Weyland affectionately called it David, a name he had initially reserved for his own human son. In summer 2025 in Japan, Gideon's son Lee, at the age of 757 years, dies at the hands of Yautja. Gideon discovered immortality by eating Yautja flesh and is now a wealthy and ruthless businessman who has been alive for centuries due to his possession of advanced predator technology. Gideon's longevity and power made him obsessed with acquiring more predator artifacts. But then, when a group of predators arrives on Earth seeking to reclaim their stolen technology, Gideon's world is turned upside down. The predators release xenomorphs, leading to a deadly clash between all three species. Gideon's pursuit of power ultimately leads to his downfall as he faces the deadly consequences of his obsession. Also in 2025, Dutch makes a comeback in the Predator Hunting Grounds video game, revealing that he has been hunting predators on secret missions ever since the incident in 1987. On December 12, 2029, after years of litigation, Weyland wins the David patent lawsuit against the Japanese startup Yutani Corporation. In 2031, Weyland Industries begins terraforming the moon, planning to build multiple settlements, on one of which Ellen Ripley will be born. In 2032, Ellie, a young woman, discovers that she's a highly advanced replicant created for a mysterious and potentially dangerous purpose. In the anime Blade Runner Black Locust, as Ellie delves deeper into her past, she becomes entangled in the dark and corrupt world of corporate espionage, rogue replicants, and Blade Runners tasked with hunting them. In 2036, events of the movie Soldier take place. Sergeant Todd 3465 is one of the soldiers who are trained from birth to be ruthless killing machines. As Todd is deemed obsolete after being defeated by a new breed of enhanced genetically engineered soldiers, he is discarded on a remote waste planet. However, he integrates with the local community and discovers a new sense of humanity and purpose. Todd then defends his new home from an attack of newly engineered soldiers who were likely replicants. In the same year, 2036, Nyander Wallace highlights the collapse of Earth's ecosystems. Wallace, being the CEO of Wallace Corporation, which took over the remnants of Tyrell Corporation, argues that the only solution to sustain the human race is the cheap labor provided by replicants. In the short film Nexus Dawn, he presents to lawmakers a newly developed replicant model Nexus 9, which demonstrates ultimate obedience by willingly ending itself on command. In 2039, Weyland astronomers discover multiple moons in the Zeta II Reticuli system, including Acheron or LV-426. Recognizing the potential of these exomoons, which exhibited habitable characteristics, Weyland quickly initiated plans to explore and eventually colonize them. On April 1, 2042, David 4 becomes the first commercially available model of the David series. And in 2045, Peter Weyland activates his personal android, David, who eventually becomes a son-like figure for Peter, whose only human child is Meredith Vickers. In 2049, society on Earth becomes increasingly dystopian, and a Blade Runner, Officer K, embarks on a quest to find Rick Deckard, a former Blade Runner who has been missing for 3 decades. Kay discovers that Deckard and Rachel had a daughter, proving that replicants can reproduce biologically and they don't have to be produced by Wallace Corp. This revelation is something that Wallace Corporation wants to keep secret at all costs, as it could make them bankrupt and plunge society into complete chaos. In 2073, Weyland Corporation identifies the exact coordinates of the moon Acheron and actively begins preparing for the launch of Project Prometheus. In 2089, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw and Charles Holloway discover a star map in a Scottish cave dating back to 35,000 years. Later in the same year, Dr. Elizabeth Shaw records an interview for the Prometheus expedition in the short clip Quiet Eye, Elizabeth Shaw. Blu-ray files reveal that at this point, Weyland Corporation already knew about the signal from LV-426 and had marked it for investigation. On January 7, 2092, Ellen Ripley is born at the Olympia colony on the moon. In 2093, the spaceship Prometheus arrives at LV-223, seeking the origins of humanity. The crew discovers a large structure with a room filled with urns containing the black goo, a potent mutagen capable of rewriting genetic material. The android David awakens the last engineer from cryosleep, revealing that the true purpose of the mission was to find a way to extend the life of Peter Weyland, who has secretly been aboard the ship. However, the engineer deems Weyland unworthy of such a gift and, in a violent turn, kills the crew. The engineer then attempts to launch the ship loaded with a deadly pathogen to annihilate all life on Earth. But Captain Yannick sacrifices himself by crashing the Prometheus ship into the engineer's juggernaut. The engineer survives the crash and then attacks Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. However, a trilobite impregnates the engineer, which later gives birth to the Deacon, a possible xenomorph predecessor. The sole survivors of the Prometheus expedition, Dr. Shaw and the android David, depart from LV-223 to the engineer homeworld. In 2094, Dr. Shaw reassembles David's body but gets sick, prompting David to place her in cryosleep. Then, in 2095, David arrives on Planet 4 and releases the pathogen, annihilating the local population, another race created by engineers. Between 2095 and 2104, David conducts experiments to fulfill his ambitions of becoming a creator like his father, Peter Weyland. When Elizabeth refuses to assist him, David kills her and uses her body, the black goo, and possibly engineer archives to recreate xenomorph eggs. It appears that David did not create the xenomorphs. The black goo actually contained the xenomorph DNA, and through numerous experiments, David was able to revive the ancient xenomorph species, or at least his version of them. In 2099, on the terraforming outpost Mirror City 4, a rebellious religious sect known as the Esoteric Brotherhood of Tulitu discovers a frozen xenomorph queen and a hive. The sect believes the xenomorph to be a holy idol and considers sacrifice to the creature a process of rebirth into gods. However, 3 days later, the colony is entirely wiped out by the xenomorphs. In the same year, 2099, Yutani Corporation merges with Weyland Corp to form Weyland Yutani. In 2100, the Walter 1 model is created as a replacement for the David series. The synthetic Walter is designed to be less human-like, incorporating more safety features and lacking emotions to avoid the issues caused by the David models. These modifications are intended to enhance reliability and prevent the unpredictable behavior that characterized David. In 2103, Weyland Yutani brings Walter and other candidates for the Covenant expedition to the Mars moon, Phobos, for psychological evaluation. During the final test, the crew is shown distressing video clips including graphic violence and mutilations to gauge their reactions. While the crew responds with various levels of distress, Walter remains completely devoid of emotion. In 2104, the Covenant expedition discovers a habitable exoplanet after being struck by a starburst on their way to Wargai 6. The ship receives a rogue transmission and the crew decides to investigate the planet where it's coming from. It turns out that the uncharted paradise is actually a dark and dangerous world whose sole inhabitant is the synthetic David. David uses the crew as hosts to span xenomorphs. He then disables Walter, another android, and impersonates him to take over the Covenant ship. The movie ends with David in charge of the ship with 2,000 colonists, 1,000 human embryos, and 2 xenomorph embryos. David may be going to Wargai 6 to create his own xenomorph colony by impregnating colonists in hypersleep, or he may be going to the actual engineer homeworld to destroy it using xenomorphs as a weapon. In 2105, a team from Weyland Yutani arrives on Planet 4 and explores David's laboratory to document scientific discoveries of the rogue synthetic. In a short film, David's lab, Last Signs of Life, after carefully recording the specimens and records within the lab, Weyland Yutani recovers a vial of black goo, or the pathogen, which is one of the most crucial finds that will shape the rest of the century. In 2122, at the colony of Bowen's Landing, a miner named Colton discovers the gruesome body of his missing colleague Al deep in the mine as depicted in the short film Alien Ore. As the next shift begins, Colton alerts the others and they find Al's chest violently torn open near a cluster of strange egg-shaped objects. As the miners attempt to leave, a deadly creature from the shadow begins attacking them. Despite losing several miners, Lorraine decides to stay behind and kill the creature to prevent it from reaching the surface and threatening the colony. Ignoring the synthetic supervisor's orders to keep the creature alive for Weyland-Yutani, Lorraine and her fellow miners prepare for a final stand against the beast. On July 3, 2122, the crew of the Weyland-Yutani spaceship Nostromo is awakened from hypersleep to investigate a strange signal from the moon Acheron LV-426. Crew member Kane discovers an engineer's spaceship similar to the one in Prometheus, with a fossilized engineer in a biosuit and several xenomorph eggs. An egg hatches and a facehugger attaches to Kane. Kane is then taken aboard the ship and the chestburster violently emerges from him. The resulting xenomorph terrorizes and kills the crew one by one. The massacre was enabled by android Ash, who violated safety protocols and had a secret company's agenda to return the alien back to Earth for research and weaponization. The sole survivor, Officer Ellen Ripley, blows up the ship Nostromo and manages to expel the xenomorph into outer space. In 2137, Amanda Ripley, daughter of Ellen Ripley, investigates her mother's disappearance in the game Alien Isolation. Amanda travels to the space station Sevastopol, hoping to find clues about her mother's fate. Upon arrival, she finds the station in disarray and its inhabitants terrorized by a deadly xenomorph. Amanda learns that another ship, an Asdora, followed the Nostromo's black box data, discovering a derelict ship on LV-426. The crew found the source of the same distress beacon picked up by Nostromo and disabled it. However, two of them were impregnated by facehuggers and brought back to Sevastopol for treatment, causing a xenomorph outbreak. Eventually, Amanda destroys Sevastopol station, but much like her mother Ripley, she finds herself in a final confrontation with a xenomorph that has managed to infiltrate her escape shuttle. Amanda shoots the xenomorph but gets sucked out of the ship with it. The game ends ambiguously, with Amanda floating in space as a bright light suggests that she may have been rescued by another ship. In 2140, Amanda Ripley reconnects with her old friend, ex-Marine Zula Hendricks. Amanda reveals that Weyland-Yutani has silenced her attempts to expose them. In the comic book Aliens Resistance, the duo discovers that despite their efforts, Weyland-Yutani has obtained xenomorph specimens for their bioweapons program. Together, Amanda and Zula manage to infiltrate a Weyland-Yutani base and detonate a nuclear device, which obliterates the facility and eradicates all the xenomorphs within it. The comic book ends with both Amanda and Zula seemingly about to die in the blast. Then, the events of Alien Romulus take place, so skip to this timestamp to avoid spoilers. On February 9, 2142, a Weyland-Yutani ship reaches the wreckage of the Nostromo and recovers the very same xenomorph that Ripley expelled into space, now frozen in a chunk of ice. Over the next 7 months, synthetics and scientists study the creature, successfully extracting a mutagenic substance from facehuggers that closely resembles the black goo. However, a containment breach leads to an outbreak, leaving the Romulus station severely damaged and non-functional. In September 2142, a group of teenagers escape their harsh existence in an off-world terraforming colony and dock to the drifting Renaissance Romulus station. Their goal is to salvage cryosleep pods to reach the more habitable Yivaga colony. However, during their mission, they accidentally revive frozen facehuggers, triggering an automatic lockdown. They activate Rook, an old android model, who reveals that the lab extracted a potent mutagenic substance from the xenomorph named Z01. This fluid was intended to perfect humans and enhance their ability to withstand space colonization. As they attempt to escape, nearly everyone is killed by xenomorphs except for Rain, Kay, and the android Andy. Kay, on the brink of death, injects herself with a vial of Z01 pathogen in hopes of healing. but instead she gives birth to a hybrid creature, a mix of human, xenomorph, and engineer. Rain manages to expel the offspring from the ship, and she and Andy enter cryosleep as they head toward the Yuvaga colony. In 2145, a primitive colony that was created after a crash on a deserted planet faces a deadly threat from the xenomorphs that were discovered by Torch, a second-generation survivor. The colonists initially view the xenomorphs as a divine plague sent by the almighty First Father, but later they find themselves in a desperate battle for survival. In 2154, Aliens, a comic book adventure video game, takes place where Colonial Marines destroy a mining planet plagued by a xenomorph outbreak. In 2159, Weyland-Yutani establishes Hadley's Hope Settlement as a terraforming colony on LV-426. In the next decade, a few short films portray various xenomorph outbreaks across mining colonies and space stations. In 2159, 4 survivors escape from an explosion on Borrowdale's spaceship. However, a xenomorph emerges from one of them, causing chaos in the shuttle. In 2167, in a remote greenhouse facility on LV-492, botanist Julie works the night shift alone and discovers an unexpected shipment of soil that turns out contains a xenomorph egg. A facehugger later emerges, attacking Julie, however, she manages to kill it. In 2169, at the mining colony of High Lonesome on LV-422, Wells finds his buddy Harper slumped in the backstreet, apparently hungover and having skipped work for the day. They come to a warehouse and Harper starts convulsing violently, giving birth to a chestburster. Rowley, a warehouse worker, kills the chestburster with a baseball bat, but then she hears the colony's alert klaxon and xenomorph screams, suggesting a xenomorph outbreak. In 2172, aboard the doomed USCSS November, 4 surviving crew members desperately attempt to reach the ship's escape pods as a fully grown xenomorph chases them. Ultimately, as they reach the escape pod, it is revealed that Mari, who had been guiding them, is a synthetic working for Weyland-Yutani. She watches with satisfaction as Alec is attacked by a facehugger. As the xenomorph kills Mari, it becomes clear that the pod was rigged to contain alien specimen. Just as the November ship is destroyed, the pod ejects itself, sending a transmission to Weyland-Yutani confirming the presence of xenomorphs on board. In 2175, after being left behind on the abandoned ship Otrano, Synthetic Hope spends over a year alone, maintaining the deteriorating vessel and engaging in mundane tasks. When an electric fire damages the ship's computer, Mother, Hope gains access to a restricted lab, where she discovers a surviving facehugger. Unable to serve as a host, Hope forms a weird companionship with the creature. As both Hope and the facehugger begin to deteriorate, Hope manages to steer the ship toward a populated space, where they are eventually found by McCurr. Hope subdues McCurr, allowing the facehugger to impregnate him. After McCurr dies from a chestburster, Hope mourns the facehugger's death, but is soon confronted by the fully grown xenomorph that emerged from McCurr. On December 23, 2178, Amanda Ripley was officially reported to have died at the age of 66 due to cancer. However, this quote-unquote official story was actually a cover-up. In reality, Amanda was placed in cryostasis with the hope that a cure for her disease could be discovered in the future. The year of 2179 is probably the most eventful year of the entire franchise, as 2 movies and various comic books and video games all take place in the same year. On June 12, 2179, in the movie Aliens, Ripley's escape vessel is rescued and Weyland-Yutani recruits her to investigate Hadley's Hope colony on LV-426 after losing contact with it. Carter Burke, a company representative, informs Ripley of the official story regarding her daughter Amanda's death, hiding the fact that Amanda spent decades searching for her mother. Along with Colonial Marines, Weyland-Yutani sends Carter Burke to secretly retrieve a xenomorph specimen, endangering everyone involved. An android named Bishop accompanies the team, causing great distress for Ripley due to her previous experience with the psycho android Ash. Upon arrival, the group discovers that the colony is overrun with xenomorphs and nearly everyone, including Burke, is killed in the following battles. Ripley encounters an alien queen, the creature responsible for producing the eggs, and after a fierce confrontation, she kills the queen, nukes the colony, and escapes with the only survivors, Corporal Hicks and the young girl Rebecca. Aboard the ship Sulaco, they enter hypersleep for their return trip to Earth. However, in an alternate timeline explored in the comic book Aliens What If, Carter Burke actually survives, sneaks aboard the dropship, and makes it back to the USS Sulaco undetected. From a distance, Burke watches Ripley fight off the Queen before he hides until everyone's asleep in their hypersleep chambers. In August of 2179, the events of the arcade game Alien 3 The Gun unfold, depicting the escape from the spaceship Sulaco before crashing on the surface of Fiorina. Players must battle through hordes of aliens and confront an army of Weyland-Yutani Corporation troops, who are determined to retrieve the xenomorph specimens by any means necessary. Although the game is not considered canon within the Alien franchise, it is still an intriguing addition to the timeline. In October of 2179, it is revealed that the alien queen left several eggs aboard the USS Sulaco. While Ripley, Hicks, and Rebecca are in hypersleep, the eggs hatch, impregnating Ripley and causing a fire that forces the ejection of their hypersleep pods onto Fiorina, a desolate planet housing an all-male prison facility. Ripley is then rescued by the inmates. However, a facehugger from the wreckage impregnates a ball, leading to the emergence of a new xenomorph that begins attacking the prisoners. During the chaos, Ripley discovers that she's carrying an alien queen embryo inside of her. After managing to kill the newly emerged xenomorph, Weyland-Yutani executives arrive on Fiorina with the intention of extracting the queen embryo from Ripley. Executive Michael Bishop bears striking resemblance to Charles Weyland, the father of Peter Weyland. Officially, Michael Bishop isn't related to Weyland family at all, but since Blade Runner franchise is connected to Alien, he might actually be a replicant of Charles Weyland. Understanding the grave danger posed by allowing the company to acquire the xenomorph embryo, Ripley makes the ultimate sacrifice. She throws herself into a furnace, ensuring that the alien queen embryo dies with her, thereby preventing Weyland-Yutani from exploiting it for their own purposes. In November 2179, Michael Bishop rescues whatever was left from the android Bishop in the wreckage. In a novel, Aliens Bishop, Michael resurrects the android Bishop to access the valuable xenomorph data stored in his mind, claiming it is for advanced medical research for humanity's benefit. As Bishop navigates this new chapter of his existence, he is pursued by various factions, including Colonial Marines and Weyland-Yutani commandos known as the Dog Catchers, all seeking to exploit the xenomorph knowledge he possesses. In 2180, the USS Sephora intercepts the USS Sulaco in the events depicted in Aliens Infestation. In this game, Colonial Marines board the Sulaco, encountering multiple xenomorphs as they investigate the ship. Their mission leads them to LV-426, where they continue their investigation and eventually discover a crashed derelict ship. Inside, they confront a massive jockey xenomorph which has emerged from the fossilized remains of the pilot. In the same year, 2180, the events of Colonial Marines game also unfold. Once again, Marines intercept the Sulaco only to face a severe xenomorph infestation. The situation escalates to the point where the Marines are forced to destroy the ship. They escape to LV-426 aboard the dropship and take shelter in the ruins of the Hadley's Hope colony. In 2183, a group of Colonial Marines is dispatched to investigate the abandoned colony on LV-426 again in the arcade game Aliens Extermination. During their mission, they encounter xenomorphs, hostile androids, and a dragon xenomorph. In 2185, events of the game Alien vs Predator 3 take place on BG-386, the colonized planet and a forested world covered in dense jungle and ancient Yautja ruins, where Weyland-Yutani established a research facility to breed xenomorphs. Marines, predators, and xenomorphs are all caught in a free-for-all battle involving a few xenomorph variants, such as Matriarch, an evolution of an alien queen, Praetorian, Specimen 6 that later morphs into a queen, and an Abomination, a Predalien hybrid. But then, before we get to Alien Resurrection, the latest film within the Alien chronological timeline, Earth actually gets overrun by xenomorphs in the comic books. In 2189, after an expedition to the xenomorph homeworld, an alien specimen is brought back to Earth for research. This results in a catastrophe when Binational's facility is attacked by religious extremists led by a priest, Salvagee, who believes the xenomorphs are divine entities. The attack results in the destruction of the facility, allowing the aliens to escape. Consequently, xenomorph outbreaks begin to appear across the globe. In 2194, in the Aliens Armageddon arcade game, Colonial Marines are deployed to combat the escalating threat, assisting the evacuation of the Ark ship amidst the fierce battle with xenomorphs. The situation on Earth becomes increasingly dire, leading to desperate measures in the following year. In 2195, as depicted in the comic book Aliens Earth War, humanity undertakes a bold mission to Xenomorph Prime. The objective is to capture a Queen Mother and bring her back to Earth, hoping to lure all xenomorphs to her and then annihilate them all. The mission is ultimately successful, with the team detonating a large number of nukes, eradicating the xenomorph infestation from Earth. Later the same year, a Juggernaut ship arrives, carrying an entity known as the Ambassador Space Jockey, who initially appears to offer assistance in terraforming Earth. However, during a meeting with the president and his advisors, the ambassador reveals that his true intentions are to exterminate all life on Earth. Consequently, the president sacrifices himself, destroying the space station and the space jockey in a final effort to save humanity. These encounters with the engineers and their technology reinforce the grim reality that they are extremely hostile towards humans and other life forms. In 2198, following a xenomorph outbreak on Pioneer Station, the USS Otago crash lands on a nearby mining moon Lethe. In the game Aliens Dark Descent, it is revealed that beneath the moon's surface lies a mysterious Zeno city, a vast subterranean complex filled with hundreds of xenomorph eggs. A team of Colonial Marines goes into Zeno City on a mission to find Cassandra. A group successfully locates her, but they're soon confronted by a massive xenomorph born from one of the ancient citizens. Giant beings that bear striking resemblance to the space jockeys, possibly being related to them. In 2203, on a deep space research complex, Professor Kleist creates an enormous human-xenomorph hybrid called Rogue or King Alien. This hybrid is an aggressive xenomorph variant that engages in a battle with an alien queen. In 2219, a group of scientists discovers a derelict ship in the comic book Aliens Apocalypse: The Destroying Angels. Aboard the alien spacecraft, they find a star map that leads them to the space jockey homeworld, revealing a vast underground city. They discover that space jockeys is a highly advanced race that had colonized thousands of worlds, and that one of them is found in a carefully sealed chamber within the city where he was subjected to catatonic suspension, an advanced version of hypersleep. Faced with extermination by the xenomorphs on their planet, the space jockey attempted to hibernate in a desperate attempt to outlast the xenomorph outbreak. In 2219, as depicted in Prometheus Fire and Stone comic book, a salvage crew arrives on LV-223 and is surprised to find a lush jungle instead of a barren landscape encountered by the Prometheus mission a century earlier. The crew uncovers a derelict ship containing xenomorphs, leading to a deadly confrontation. As the situation deteriorates, one crew member, Francis, injects his synthetic assistant Eldon with black goo, causing a violent mutation. The group faces betrayal and attacks from both xenomorphs and engineers, resulting in a chaotic struggle for survival. Later in 2219, as depicted in Prometheus Life and Death comic book, Colonial Marines are on a mission involving an engineered juggernaut that they seized during a previous encounter. When a marine inside the Juggernaut inadvertently awakens the engineer kills one of the marines and changes the ship's course to the moon LV-223. Upon landing, the marines face attacks from mutated xenomorphs but are saved by survivors from a previous mission who are now allied with a Yautja named Ahab. The group learns that the engineers are preparing to hunt them down, so they plan to hijack the derelict ship to escape the moon. However, as they execute their plan, the situation spirals out of control, leaving some members to fight off xenomorphs and furious engineers. In 2349, megacorporations like Weyland-Yutani are banned by the United Systems, a unified federation of superpowers on Earth. In 2356, Weyland-Yutani, operating in secret, recovers a sample of Ellen Ripley's blood from Fiorina where she died. Then, in 2379, the United Systems military, after 7 failed attempts, finally manages to clone Ellen Ripley using her blood sample and extracts the alien queen from her. The successful clone, Ripley 8, shares parts of the queen's DNA and has alien-like abilities. In 2381, the military breeds xenomorphs on the ship Auriga and conducts experiments to use them as weapons. However, the xenomorphs break out and overtake the ship, nearly killing everybody. Ripley and several mercenaries make their way through the ship, fighting xenomorphs until they eventually face the Newborn, a terrifying human-xenomorph hybrid who's technically Ripley's child. Experiencing conflicting emotions, Ripley kills the Newborn and escapes with the rest of the crew while the ship crashes into Earth, destroying the aliens but at the same time causing a massive catastrophe on Earth. 2381, Weyland-Yutani gets a contract to re-terraform Earth following the crash of the ship Auriga, and this megacorporation becomes legal again. In 2386, it's the last time we hear of Ripley 8 in the novel Alien's Original Sin, where Ripley, Cell, and other crew members from Alien Resurrection try to contain an outbreak in a botanical colony, Domes Epsilon. Then we jump all the way to 2593 when, in a Game Boy video game Alien vs Predator The Last of His Clan, a Predator drone ship placed alien eggs onto a planet, which hatched and produced a fine crop of alien prey. The human population was eradicated in the process, but then a lone Predator fights xenomorphs, eventually encountering an alien queen. Then, in 2692, Colonial Marines surviving humans and Predators must come together to combat a coordinated xenomorph invasion orchestrated by the Rage, a mysterious and powerful group of rogue scientists intent on using the xenomorphs to conquer the galaxy. Central to the story is the struggle for survival and the efforts to unravel the mysteries behind the Rage's motives and their control over the xenomorphs. In 2737, as depicted in the comic book Alien Black, White and Blood, a colony known as the Union of Progressive Peoples travels through space aboard the ship Forward and then recovers a Weyland-Yutani vessel. This vessel harbors xenomorph, leading to a catastrophic infestation. This comic explores the furthest point in the Alien timeline, reaching all the way to the 28th century. However, there's another non-canon comic book titled Predator vs Magnus Robot Fighter set in the year 4000. In this story, a Yautja seeks the ultimate trophy, the XO Manowar helmet, which is in the possession of Magnus, a man known for his steel-smashing strength and nicknamed Robot Fighter. This setup leads to an epic confrontation between the two powerful characters. Here you have it, the ultimate timeline of aliens, engineers, and predators. The summary includes narratives from every movie and various video games and comic books. While not every comic book story is considered canon, they still contribute to the expansive lore of these franchises. I might make an even more comprehensive timeline, delving deeper into each story and including every single comic book as opposed to talking about the most significant ones. Thank you guys for watching, like this video if you enjoyed it, and consider supporting the channel on Patreon. Also, special thank you to those who already joined. My name is Croft and I'll see you in the next video.